Welcome to the Happier and Healthier podcast. I'm your host, Maria Marlowe, and this is a place where we don't rely on good luck or good genes for our health and happiness, but rather we create it with our thoughts and our actions each and every single day. Each week, I'll bring you a thought or a guest that will help you live your happiest and healthiest life. Are you ready? Welcome back to the Happier and Healthier podcast. Today's guest is someone who I've had a little bit of a girl crush on for quite some time. I've been following her work for the past few years. I actually first learned of her, I don't even know how many years ago it was, but she did a TEDx talk on radical self-love. And since then, she has really made it her mission to help women, one, radically love themselves, and two, really step up into the life that they desire. She is a ball of positivity, and she had some great insights to share with us today on self-love, on manifestation, and also on abundance as well. So she's really all about designing and creating the life of your dreams. And she gives us so many practical tools and tips for how we can actually turn that into reality. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to share with you about a couple brands that I love and help make this podcast possible. If you're looking to improve your health, and especially if you want to improve your digestion, you have to check out the probiotic brand Hyperbiotics. It's the most effective probiotic that I've found on the market, and it's the brand that I personally use and recommend to all of my clients. It's so effective because it's made with 15 different strains of probiotics that have been scientifically shown to benefit digestive and overall health, including weight management, reproductive health, and mood. They're also clinically shown to be 15 times more effective than the common probiotic capsules that you'll find at the health food store. Hyperbiotics has helped many of my clients and myself get rid of bloating, increase regularity, and maintain a flat stomach and healthy digestion. For being so high quality, you expect them to be super expensive, but they're extremely affordable at just $25 for a 1-month supply. Plus, you get an additional 20% off with the code HYPERMARIA. Head to hyperbiotics.com, that's HYPERBIOTICS.com, and use the code HYPERMARIA for 20% off. If you're looking for all-natural skincare products without harsh chemicals, useless fillers, or other nasty things you don't want in your bloodstream, check out Primally Pure. It's a California-based skincare line that started from a farm, so you can bet that all the ingredients are all natural yet extremely effective. I love their beauty cream, fancy face serum, and deodorant. Head to primallypure.com and use code MARIA10 for 10% off your order. Gala, thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So I've been admiring you for a very long time, and I've watched your TEDx talk, and I just love your book about radical self-love. So let's just start with that. You released this book back a few years ago, but I know it's still very much a part of your message. So what is radical self-love?
Radical self-love is about understanding your worth and your value so that you can make better decisions about the things that you do in your life. And it's really a process that takes time, and it's about asking yourself questions about who am I and why am I like this? What are the stories I tell myself? What are the beliefs I've inherited from my family or my friends or the culture? And really asking yourself, is this true for me? And what happens when we start to do that is we realize that a lot of the things that we've been told or that we think on a daily basis are really not true, and they're actually very disempowering. And so once we start to ask ourselves, like, does this really apply to my life? Is this still true? Then we find there's a lot of freedom in that, and we can grow and flourish and start to do things differently because we're no longer held to these small little beliefs that keep us stuck.
Yeah, and it's so important. I love that you mentioned like to ask ourselves, is it really true? Because I think so often we believe things not only about ourselves, but just in general, that we are quite sure is true. But actually, if we poke a little bit, it's like, no, that's just a false belief. So,
Yes. And all of our thoughts come from somewhere, and often they're related to a fear or an early childhood memory or event that was traumatic or painful, and it keeps us closed off. I was talking to my friend Colin yesterday. We were recording an episode of my interview show, which is the Gala Darling show. And he was like, what do you feel about people who describe themselves as like lone wolves and like they do everything by themselves and they're very, they're antisocial and they kind of have that as a badge of honor. And I said, they're afraid. That comes from a fear of being abandoned or rejected or not accepted or being too weird or misunderstood. Like all of these things that we do, these labels we hold on to and these little grooves we put ourselves into, a lot of that comes from a fearful place that stems from a painful experience in the past.
yeah, I was just talking about this as well with another podcast guest about how we are social creatures. And it's really only relatively recently that we've started to isolate ourselves and become these lone wolves. And,
Yeah.
even personally, like, I would used to tell myself like, oh, I'm an introvert. Like I love working at home and like I don't really need to see people or things like that. But then I realized like
Yeah.
once I actually started going out and seeing people and like making time for friends and all of that, I was like, oh my God, I actually like this way better. This feels
It
so
feels
much better.
so good. Yes, it feels so good. And it's interesting too, because even the story of like, I'm an introvert is a limiting story.
Hmm.
Because as long as you're telling yourself that, as long as you're telling yourself, oh, I'm shy or I have social anxiety, you're not going to push yourself to be in a slightly uncomfortable situation where maybe you're not that comfortable being with people because you don't practice it a lot. And that's really limiting you from having these experiences. And I totally know what you mean. Like, I am an only child. I'm a writer. I live by myself and I love my alone time. And often, I get home at the end of the day after being at the gym or whatever, and I'm like, God, I'm tired. I just want to be in bed. But I know that if I make the effort to go out or call a friend, I will feel so good.
Yeah,
So a lot of it is about, balancing those sides of us. Like, yes, if you're a creative person, then you are probably going to need time alone to create. But that social aspect is so important and really cannot be underestimated.
for sure. So now I know you're like a ball of positivity now, but you were not always this way. So can you take us back a little bit and tell us, what life was like before and what was a turning point for you where you started to become this like super positive, confident, radically self-loving person?
Sure. When I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I had clinical depression. I had an eating disorder. I was a very unhappy person. I think a lot of it stemmed from the fact that I was really creative, but I had been told that there was no way to make money by being creative. And even though I was encouraged to be creative as a child, once I hit my teens, the message was like, well, you need a job that's going to pay you good money. Maybe you should be a lawyer. Maybe you should be a journalist. And these ideas were like so depressing to me. And when you're that age, you listen to and believe the adults around you because you assume that they know best because they have more life experience than you. And so when I looked at what my future could be, I thought, wow, this sucks. My life is going to suck. I don't want this. And because I had no way of dealing with my emotions, no coping mechanisms, I turned to self harm. I turned to not eating, and I was really in a bad place. And this continued until I was about 22. And then I was introduced to an energy psychology technique called tapping, which is also known as the emotional freedom technique. And I started using this technique to essentially lift the veils that had been obscuring my vision for so long. And, I used it on asthma. I used it on back pain. I used it on my depression. And on the night that I used it on my eating disorder, which, by the way, cured me in one night, I did one session of tapping in front of the mirror on my eating disorder. And the next day I was like, oh, food's not that bad. I can eat this, which is so amazing. Once I got to that place and I looked at the world, I felt like I had been wasting my time by being in this dark place. And I realized there was so much beauty in the world. And I've really been making up for lost time ever since. And I also believe that when you find something that helps you, or you know of a technique or a tool or a pattern of thought that could help other people, it's your responsibility to share that with others. And not to be preachy, I hate evangelical preachy people, but if someone's interested, I am thrilled to share with them what has worked for me. Because I see so many women who are disempowered, or, they're so focused on what their body looks like, or they're so focused on getting into a relationship, and it really shrinks your experience of life so much. And all I want to do is make women feel so good and so confident so they can go out there and live the life they could never have even dreamed they could have lived.
Yes, and that's why I love you, and that's why I invited you on the show, because we want to get all your tips. So
All right.
let's start with the tapping. So you mentioned tapping and EFT. For
Yeah.
someone who's not familiar with that, can you share a little bit more about what exactly that is and how it works?
Absolutely. So tapping is basically like acupuncture without needles. So it's a technique you can do to yourself. It's free. You can learn it really quickly, and you're basically using the fingers on one of your hands to press on various parts of your body that are meridian points. So where the energy runs strongest in your body. And you're just pressing on these points repeatedly, while out loud you're talking about whatever the problem is that you are hoping to resolve. So that's basically what happens. And the theory behind it is that where you have pain or trauma or fear, that's because there's energy stuck at these certain meridian points in your body. And when you're physically tapping on them, you're freeing up the energy so it can flow freely. And it sounds bizarre. I I always think it sounds so weird when I explain it to people, but I'm really of the belief that I don't care what the technique is as long as it works. That's it. I don't care how weird it is. I don't care what it sounds like. If it works, I'm about it. So, yeah.
For sure. If it gives you results, then why not?
Right.
So, yeah, that's really interesting. I've definitely heard about tapping, and I know a lot of people in the sort of wellness world do it, but I've
Yeah.
never actually tried it. But I think you've actually inspired me to
Oh
look
my
into
goodness.
it a little bit more and check it out.
Well, I do a weekly series on my YouTube channel called High Vibe Honey. And in this series, I pull tarot cards for the week ahead for all the people watching. And then we use tapping to break through the blocks that we have about what the cards say. So, for example, if a card comes up like the Two of Cups, which says you're going to meet your soulmate and love is here and all those things, you might listen to that and think, okay, that's great. But your beliefs, the internal story might be, well, I don't deserve that, or I don't trust men, or marriage is a prison, or something like that. And so with the tapping, we just remove the obstacles that we feel are in the way of us getting what we want. And it's a really good way to introduce people to tapping because it's sort of low stakes and we all do it together and there's a community and it's fun. And I teach it in a really fun way. I'm very conversational. I'm not, I don't know, spouting lines off a card. It's very spontaneous and free flowing and it's fun. So it's a good place to start.
Yeah. So you mentioned worthiness about
Mm.
someone maybe not feeling worthy for a partner. And I
Mhm.
think we can feel unworthy in all different aspects of our life. Maybe it's earning a certain amount or getting a certain promotion or job or whatever it may be. So where do you think these feelings of unworthiness come from? And then how do we banish them from our life?
The feelings of unworthiness come from everywhere. They come from watching our parents or guardians settle for less than they were capable of. We hear it from our friends. We see it in movies. We're really ingrained with seeing this. And if you think about the way our parents ran their lives, they were mostly, I think about this all the time, like our generation is so obsessed with like, what's my purpose? What's my mission? What am I here for? Like, what is the reason that I'm on the planet? I don't know that our parents thought about that much. I think they were more like, I'm going to get a job and put some food on the table. I'm going to raise my children and try not to fuck them up too badly. Like it's a luxury problem that we think about all of this stuff. And even the idea of thinking about worthiness is a bit of a luxury problem, but we see it because our parents didn't really consider it that much. They were just kind of trying to do what they were trying to do. But, every time you say your parents were fighting and you saw like, maybe your mother was not able to stand up to her husband or whatever, when you see these things, it tells you a story about how you should be, how you get your way in life, what's acceptable, what you should put up with, and what your life is going to look like in the future. So one of the best ways, and I'm going to talk about this through the whole interview, one of the best ways to deal with unworthiness or breaking up those old stories is by tapping. It's truly the best way to do it. Because when we're tapping, the key phrase in tapping is, I deeply and completely love and accept and forgive myself. And just saying that to yourself as you tap on these points is revolutionary. Because how often do you tell yourself, I love you unconditionally, or I accept you no matter what the situation is right now, or I forgive you for believing this, or having experienced this, or putting up with that? We say it to ourselves so rarely. Most of the time we're telling ourselves like, you're so stupid, like, why did you do that? I can't believe you do this. This isn't going to work, or whatever. And those stories are so disempowering. And when we give ourselves the gift of loving ourselves anyway, we're fucking free. That's why it's called emotional freedom technique, because you really are freeing yourself from these emotions that keep you locked down.
Yeah, and it's so true. We usually have these broken records in our head about what's wrong with us, what we've done
Mm-hmm.
wrong, and just feeling guilty over everything or beating ourselves up over the smallest little thing. But when
Mm-hmm.
we simply shifting our mindset around that and actually, thinking of our body, or talking to ourselves as we would talk to another human being, then
Yeah.
it really shifts our not only our perspective but how we feel and then ultimately how we act in our life as well.
Absolutely. Our beliefs lead to our thoughts, which lead to our actions, which lead to our results. So if you can go back and start to change some of those beliefs, everything in the chain changes as well. And often, if you have that record in your mind, like you're saying, that usually sounds like either your mother or your father. So even a good place to start would be like, even though I hear my father's voice in my head all the time, I accept myself, I love myself, I forgive myself regardless.
I love it. I feel like that's a challenge to all of our listeners and myself included. I think this week, definitely check out EFT and try it.
It's very, very powerful. I'm completely obsessed with it. And I've been doing it for 13 years now. And it's only recently that I've really started to bring it to my audience unrelentingly. And just the results that people are getting are so mind blowing that I'm kind of like, I've been talking about radical self love for so long, and affirmations and journaling and mirror work and all these things that we've heard about a million times, but nothing is as powerful as tapping. Tapping gets you results in the moment and it changes you forever. So it's really, really, really worth checking out.
So I'm curious, in addition to EFT, are there any other techniques or practices that have played a really big role in your life?
Yeah, there's a practice that I developed about a year ago called the magical morning practice, which I love. And it's a really great manifestation practice for those of you who are into manifesting the life of your dreams, which is probably all of us.
For sure.
So, with the magical morning practice, what we're doing is we are creating a story about our future, but we're talking about it as if it's already happened. Because often, if you are thinking about what you want, it's always in the distance. Or you talk about like, oh, I'm going to buy this car, or I can't wait to get this job, or whatever it is. And the way we talk about things is we constantly put them out, just out of arm's reach. And the more that you talk about them being out there, the further and further away they seem to be. So the magical morning practice is a way of bringing those desires into the past. So it's like you already have them. And when you talk about them as if you already have them, you feel relaxed, you feel at ease. It's like it takes the resistance out of it. So it really, really helps. So the magical morning practice is generally done on your phone. And the reason for that is because pretty much everybody wakes up in the morning and grabs their phone, even though they know they shouldn't. We know we shouldn't be looking at Instagram first thing in the morning, but most of us do because we're addicts. So instead of using your phone to be a consumer, you use it to be a creator. So first thing in the morning, you grab your phone and you go to the voice recording app and you start making a recording and you start talking into your phone. And you're going to talk into your phone in 3 parts. The first thing you're going to do is talk about what you are grateful for. And you're going to talk about this for 2 minutes. And it's going to be really juicy gratitude. There's no, I'm grateful for my job, I guess. No, that's no good to anybody. I want you to get really specific about the things that you are truly, deeply joyful about. So you talk about that for about 2 minutes. And then you talk about your desires for the day. But like I was saying, you talk about them in the past tense. So for this second section, you just keep recording and you would say, for my daily desires, I am so grateful that I had such a great day. I woke up early. I drank a really delicious coffee. I did a really good podcast. I went to the gym, and then I had the most amazing photo shoot, and it was so fun. And then I went out to dinner with this really cute man or whatever, right? So you talk about what you want to happen that day as if it has already happened. And then the third part of the magical morning practice is to talk about your desires for the future, but again, to put them in the past. So then you would say, for my future desires, I'm so grateful that my book was a New York Times bestseller and my book tour is going really well. And I bought this amazing house with this turquoise swimming pool and I just love looking at it every morning. It makes me feel so good. So that's the magical morning practice. And then you press pause on the recording and you send it to a friend. Now, this has to be a legit friend, no frenemies, no people who are going to shit on your dreams. These have to be sent to people who truly love you, believe you, and want to uplift you. So you send them your recording, and then at their leisure, they listen to it and they send you one back. And this is the most effective manifestation practice I know of. You're speaking your desires into fruition as if they've already happened, and you're letting it be witnessed by someone who wants the best for you. And I was doing this with a friend of mine for such a long time, and we really got into a groove where I would make my recording every morning when I walked to the coffee shop, and she would listen and send one back. And when I listened back to her recording, I'm paying attention to it, but I'm not paying total attention. I might be listening while I do the dishes or brush my teeth or something. And the line between what she was grateful for and what her desires were got really blurred. Like I didn't really know whether she was talking about something that had already happened or something she wanted. So in my mind, I'm seeing it as if it's all already happened for her. And you're using somebody else's manifestation powers to add juice to your own desires. Man, this technique works so well.
Yeah, I mean, it even just from having clarity yourself, right? Because, and everyone always talks about like, if you don't know what you want, you're not going to get it. So just forcing yourself to actually think about what you want and then taking it a step further and being grateful for it and thinking as if you've already had it. But just the clarity around what do you actually want? What are you creating in your life? I think is enough to propel people in that direction.
Absolutely. It's so powerful because when I first started doing this practice, I would have to really think like, oh, what do I want today? Because up until then, I had really been running my life by, okay, what's on my to-do list today? And that's not fun. Like, where's the fucking pleasure in your life? Where's the juiciness? Where's the joy? Like, this practice really helped me get focused on what would feel really good today? What would be really nourishing? And, a lot of this is stuff that you're creating in your own life. You're planting these intentional seeds in the morning. So if you say that you had a really great workout today, you're going to go and have a really great workout because you've already told yourself, this is what's happening today. You're starting to create this roadmap for yourself. And our brains believe whatever we tell them. So why not tell your brain something really powerful?
That's so true, right? We're fine telling it lies about what we think about ourselves or how we think the world is, but
Right.
yeah, so it totally makes sense.
Yeah, our brain believes whatever we tell it. Like whatever you tell yourself is your truth. So tell yourself something good.
For sure. So I'm curious how now that you've been doing it for a length of time, what have you manifested?
Oh my goodness. I've manifested amazing relationships, amazing friendships. I moved from New York to LA. I released a new book that's been going so well. I mean, my life has completely changed. I manifested this beautiful house that I'm living in. Like, literally, my whole life has changed in the short period of time that I've been doing this practice. It is very powerful.
Yeah, and I think, we talk a lot about manifestation, talking about, okay, imagine what you want and imagine as if you have it now. Like that's the whole secret, right? But also
Mhm.
that layer of sending it to your friend, I think that just adds a whole new layer of also accountability because it's
Yes.
not just you and these thoughts in your head, but you're sharing them with someone who's important to you. They're going to help hold you accountable. And I think it also just makes it more real when it's not just in your head, when you're actually sharing that vision with others.
It does, and it's one thing to dream it, and it's another to have the courage to say it out loud and have it be witnessed. That takes balls. It is not easy to do that in the beginning. It really isn't. And a lot of us are afraid to say what we want because we think we're not going to get it. But as long as you're in that place of like, well, I don't want to say it because I might jinx it, you're not going to get it. You're holding it at a distance with one hand. So having the courage to speak it out loud is like you grabbing it and you're pulling it in close and you're like, here I am, baby. Let's go.
For sure. And I know you talk about manifestation a lot, and I know that your second book is on manifestation, right?
Yes, it is.
So I guess in addition to that technique then, which I think we all need to start doing every single morning, what are
Yes.
some other tips for making manifestation a regular part of our life and not something we just, do once in a while when we're in a bind?
Right. It's really important to have these daily energy practices that make you feel good and to really make feeling good your priority. Feeling good is the number one priority in my life, and it's fully how I run my life these days. If there's something that comes up and I think like, nah, I'm not going to enjoy that, I just don't do it. I say no, I delegate, I do something else. I would figure out a workaround. Feeling good is my number one priority. And the reason for that is that's really your job is to feel good. We think our job is how we make our money, but it's not. When you feel good, everything else works, everything else flows. When you feel good, there's this sense of momentum that carries you forward. And when you feel really amazing, like think about the last time you had a really crazy endorphin surge after you went to the gym, or you danced around your living room to your favorite song, or you went and did karaoke, or something like that. Something that used your whole body that felt so good. When you're in that place, you have so much energy and power, and that momentum carries you forward. It helps you do new things. It helps you have ideas. It helps you contact people and be brave. And so, my belief is that if you can make feeling good your priority, that will lead to everything else good in your life. So, a really big part of manifesting is to make yourself feel good every single day. And if that's difficult for you, then you got to work on it. That's it. Like, there's no excuses. We are this incredible generation where we truly do get to design our lives exactly how we want them. There are really no excuses anymore. You get to live your life however you want. So make feeling good a priority and you will just see things happen so quickly in your life. Like you can't manifest anything when you're in a bad mood or you're stressed out or you're panicked or anxious or fearful. It doesn't work that way. It only works when your energy is high. So make feeling good a priority.
For sure. And the other part of that is that when you're low energy and bad vibes, bad mood, other people pick up on that. And
Oh no,
so
they don't want to be around you.
they don't want to be around you and you repel them. And I can say this personally because I know this with myself. Like when I'm in a happy mood and, I'm feeling good and I become magnetic to opportunities, to people, to everything. But if I ever get into a funk, the opposite of that, then it's literally like I'm repelling people, repelling opportunities. So that good energy and those good vibes is not only so that you feel good and that you're vibrating at a higher frequency, but also so that opportunities are going to be magnetized to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. People want to be around people that uplift them. If you think about like who are your favorite people, they are probably not the people that always have a new complaint.
For sure. Right? It's the person who's always really happy and cheery, the one who always looks at the bright side. And
Yeah.
they may not have the cheeriest, most perfect life. It's just that how they handle the stressors in their life is completely different.
Right. Like they've made a decision that feeling good is important to them, no matter what the circumstances are. They're like, I will spin this into gold, no matter what. And those are the people that you just want to be around. So that's very important. And really looking at who you surround yourself with is such another important piece of this puzzle. I went to Disneyland with my friend Natalia Benson the other day for her birthday. And she's an Aries and she's very enthusiastic about everything. And we went to Anaheim the night before and stayed at the Disneyland Hotel so that we could be up at 6:45 in the morning so we could be the first people on the rides. She is not fucking around. Like it was insane. I was like, "Oh my god, why are we up so early?" But we had the best day and she was so enthusiastic and positive and excited about things. And I looked at her and I said, this is so great because this is the kind of situation I want to be in with people all the time. I think when we are people who are healers or teachers or we're interested in helping other people, whether it's through being a nutritionist or being a therapist or whatever, when you're a person like that, you often attract people into your life who are a little bit dark because they love that bright light. And it feels so good for them to be around it, like moths to a flame, literally. But I've spent so many years of my life being in relationships with people who were kind of like Eeyore. And then it's weighs on you so heavily. And being around Natalia all day at Disneyland, I was just like, this is what I want now. I have no time for anything that is not really equal, where we're both lifting each other, where we're using that momentum to get higher and higher together. That's all I want.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, nobody wants to be around the Eeyore. Everyone wants to be around that happy, vibrant person. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it's up to us to be that way. And it's up to us to take control and really decide that no matter what stress comes our way, no matter what circumstances come our way, we are always going to tackle it from a place of positivity and a place of, figuring things out, not playing the victim.
Yes. And the thing is that a lot of us are very accustomed to playing the victim. For some of us, it's how we get attention or it's how we get love. And we also can be sort of addicted to our pain. Sometimes that pain feels so familiar and comfortable that we really actually like being in there. But it's always your choice as to whether you want to stay there or whether you want to try something different. And the truth is that even if that pain feels comfortable in the short term or like you're used to it and it's kind of like better the devil you know where that pain leads you. It doesn't lead you anywhere good. So you have the choice to continue thinking those thoughts that bring you pain or to think something else. And learning to discipline your mind and think differently is a really important skill for us all to learn.
And any tips for someone, let's say, who's trying to really become that super positive person that is working on it, doing really well, and then some big catastrophe, something happens, and then they find themselves back in that negative mindset? How do you snap
Well,
right out of it?
that's a great question because it happens to absolutely everyone. Nobody is going to feel amazing 24/7. It's just not possible. Life provides us with contrast and conflict all the time. And part of the reason of that is to make our joy so much sweeter. But really, it's just about the awareness of the thoughts and realizing like okay, I'm having that thought again that's making me unhappy. What could I think that would be different that can make me feel different? And my experience is being that it's not really about thinking yourself into a new thought, it's about acting your way into a new thought. So often it's about using your physical body to change your state. So get up and like jump up and down, or listen to some music, or sing, or talk to someone on the phone. Do something with your body, go for a walk, and that will help you to change your state. And while you go on a walk, or while you exercise, or whatever you're doing, think about the things that you're grateful for, and it will turn your mood around so, so quickly.
I love that. Yeah, I've talked about this before. One thing that I was really surprised about the first time that I ever went to a Tony Robbins conference was
Yeah.
that he relied so much on movement and dance and
Mm-hmm.
singing because his whole thing is when you change your physiology, you change your psychology. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, talk about being in a good mood. Like everyone was high on like happiness the whole weekend
Yep.
because you're
Yep.
literally dancing and singing majority of the time. So you cannot be in a
Absolutely.
bad mood at that point.
Absolutely. The last time I went to a Tony Robbins event, on day one, you finish at like 1 in the morning or whatever, and you've been in the room for at least 12 hours. I came home and I danced in my living room for at least half an hour. I was so psyched. And that's the thing about Tony's events is it shows you that you have so much more energy than you ever thought you did.
Right, for sure. He makes you feel unstoppable because
Hmm.
you
And
are unstoppable. It's just that you don't realize that
absolutely.
you are.
Absolutely. And he's physically proving it to you. Because we tell ourselves these things all the time, like, I'm so tired, like, I can't be bothered, like, oh, I just don't have the energy for that, or this is too hard. As long as you're telling yourself that, it's like putting cement shoes on. Like, that's not going to help you get to where you want to get. So, yeah, it's really about disciplining your mind and telling yourself new stories. Like asking yourself, is this really true? Or am I just telling myself some bullshit so I can stay small and safe and comfortable and not be criticized? And that's what it's usually about.
Hmm. Yeah. So speaking of playing small, one topic that I know that you talk a lot about, I know you teach a class on this, is abundance. And I know a
Yes.
lot of people have this struggle, especially around money, that they're stuck in this sort of poverty consciousness. So
Yeah.
how do we flip that into an abundance consciousness?
Again, it's about changing your beliefs. And in my Radical Rituals Abundance class, which is a 2-week class, so it's very quick, it's very easy. We do a lot of tapping and exercises around changing your mindset around money. So, like I said earlier, tapping is the most powerful tool I know for changing your beliefs in an instant. And in this class, you get an exercise every day that's about takes about 10 minutes to do. So it's really doable. It's really simple. And the results people get from this class are mind blowing. I get emails from people all the time who are like, I made $25,000. I made $40,000. I made $100,000. I had a woman email me and she's like, I woke up and we have $250,000 more in our bank account today.
Wow.
That is crazy. And that's the thing. We have these beliefs like, I don't know how to make more money. I don't know how to ask for more money. I don't know where it's going to come from. That's the big one. Like, we don't know where it's going to come from. And if people ask me all the time, I want to take this class, but I'm not an entrepreneur. Does that matter? And it's like, no, the universe is massively abundant. Money comes from all kinds of different places all the time. So in this class, we really open you up to those possibilities, and it just works. Like, the money just comes. It is so amazing. And every time I have a friend I'm talking to and they're like, oh man, like business is slow or whatever, I'm like, dude, just take my class again. And they're always like, oh yeah, cool. Okay, great. And then 2 weeks later, they email me and they're like, yeah, I made my goal. Like, I'm good.
Well, I think it also probably goes back to that worthiness part as well, right? Because if you don't feel worthy for it, or you feel like, oh, well, my boss is never going to give me a raise, or
Uh-huh.
whatever, I'm never going to sign that client, whatever, then no, it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you
Yes.
believe you deserve it, and you believe you're worthy of it, again, you're vibrating on that higher frequency, it's
Yeah.
just, it happens.
Well, it's going to change your body language even when you go into the office to ask for the raise. There's two different ways of approaching it. There's the way of approaching it where you think you're not going to get it. So you walk in and you're slumped over and you're small and you speak in a sort of like almost embarrassed way about what you want. And there's the way that you walk in there fully confident with your shoulders back and your head up, and you present your case and you're compelling and you're magnetic and you're exciting. Those are two totally different things. But the thing with money is it goes back so far. A lot of people don't want to make more money because they don't want to do better than their family did. They don't want to make their parents feel bad or their sister feel bad for the choices they've made. They don't want to do better than their friends because then maybe they won't have any friends left. They don't want to be judged. They think if they don't have a lot of money, then they won't be criticized. Like there are so many things that hold us back from making more money. So in this class, we really investigate those and we just get rid of them. And it is so, so powerful.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well, one question that I love to ask all of my guests is if you have just one tip or piece of advice for our listeners in order for them to live a happier and healthier life, what would that be?
Tapping. Start tapping. Yeah. My most recent High Vibe Honey video was about, well, the tapping portion of the High Vibe Honey video was about what's my life purpose? Because this is something that people are like, I don't know what I'm here for all the time. So there's just a really easy tapping routine on just realizing what your purpose is, getting clear on it, letting it come to the surface. And it's a really good place to start for anyone who's like, what is this? I'm not sure. This is a really good place to start.
I love it. I feel like we all have so much homework to do right now after listening to this episode, and I'm super excited about it. Well, thank you so much for being here. I just love your whole vibe and your energy and everything that you're doing to help women realize their power and potential. And where can people find you? Where's the best place for people to find you?
I'm on Instagram a lot, so I'm at Gala Darling, and then I have a website as well, and I've been blogging for 13 years about self-love and empowerment and feeling good, and that's all at galadarling.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gala.
Thank you, Maria.